Ahem. 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 Good evening. 7:31. I'm a minute late for episode 83. Sorry, 83. Beyond the Red Doors. September 28th. September 28th, 2022. September is when you can feel the earth yielding to its death in the chillier nights. And the how's it going? Liquid pop rocks. I'm actually drinking a lot less. Drinking a lot less Coke than I used to. And it's starting to taste too much for me. It's pretty damn syrupy. There used to be this, I think it's probably still available, but at Whole Foods you could get this thing called Gus soda, grown-up soda. And for me, that was like the perfect Coke. Or if you go to like the movie theaters or any place where they have the drink dispensers where you can put in the amounts of whatever you want. You put ice, and then you put a third soda water, and then 2/3 Coke. And for me, that's perfect. This is a tad viscous. I feel like I need to wash it down with water. Yeah, I'm playing with light tonight, a little differently than I had, and I gotta, put a new camera angle in here in prep for some other stuff. This camera here is actually on a gimbal. I don't have it turned on, but were I to have it turned on, I could move it about. I'm not doing that tonight. That's not the point of tonight. The point of tonight is this is my first stream where I am officially half a century old, and therefore I feel like you all owe me. You owe me cheer. That sounds awful. Like, if anything, half of the comments I get on the videos I do is like, no, things like this. Nobody wants to listen to existential shit when they're trying to sleep. Of what use is this video? This doesn't help me in any way. I'm already depressed. What are you trying to do? You should be held accountable, etc. I'm not good at faking it. Not good at faking it. I used to be better, I think, at faking it. Not anymore. It feels, if I'm doing something and it feels disingenuous, or it feels like I can start to get outside myself. This happens at work. This happens lots of different times. But when I will be giving a talk, as one does, on a panel, as one is, and then you dissociate and you get outside yourself and you kind of look at what you're doing, start to hear the words coming out of your mouth as if they're coming out of someone else's mouth, and then you start to question, like, oh Jesus, like what is this idiot talking about? And then you might start to lose the thread a little bit. You might start to panic and not know what to say next. Or worse yet, you might just kind of throw your hands up and be like, listen, everybody, this is just a bunch of bullshit, you know? We're all in we begin life in a flooded spotlight that narrows progressively as time progresses. It doesn't matter where we scurry on the stage, the spotlight follows us, getting narrower and narrower. And we see the penumbra approaching. We begin to panic. Panicking doesn't help. You can run around the stage all you want. The spotlight's going to follow you. Smaller and smaller. Get swept up by a stage mime into an imaginary dustbin. Thrown out. They hold a little bit of light in their hand. They cup it in their hand. And that's it. That was your lot. That's what you got. Hope you did something great with it. I mean, no. I hope you didn't do something great. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, doing great things. That's certainly overrated, isn't it? Kind of pressure that comes along with doing things that are supposed to be great. Q, what? Are you kidding me? Everybody dissociates from time to time. I found that I dissociate more now, post-pandemic. Pandemic and post-pandemic, right? It's easier to dissociate when you're not in front of people. In a situation like this, it's very easy to dissociate. I'm dissociating right now. It's awesome. This is how I see myself when I'm here. This is the camera view that my brain is giving me as I'm speaking here. And it's no fun. So yeah, march on through your life, and see, this is what I this was not a good idea. Probably that's not the point. The point is it's less today than it was yesterday, regardless of if it's another 50 years or another 5 minutes. You're perpetually on the crest of the wave. You're perpetually the oldest that you've ever been and the youngest you ever will be. All that. Taught. To use a Britishism. Who is it? Chells. Yes. Chells, I think, used to say tot quite a bit. Look, I'm making you depressed, Indigo. First of all, I still love that profile picture. Second of all, these need to go down. Should have taken care of this beforehand. Let's make sure it's centered. Okay. Second of all, you should be depressed. That is the natural, that is the default state of all sentient life. Should be mild depression. Maybe serious depression. It depends on your point of view, your philosophy. I find it cute. I've seen a lot of psychiatrists in my life, and hear a lot of talks from self-help gurus, and it is just amazing to me how self-help gurus, self-help gurus, those guys. It is amazing to me how we can just kind of go around and around in circles and just say the same things over and over again, and they come in vogue and they go out of vogue for about 5 years, and they come back again and they go out of vogue again. You hear the same shit being told to you over and over again, as if it's supposed to have some kind of positive net effect on your well-being or how you feel about yourself, or how you feel about just existing day to day, getting this tripe, these aphorisms that are as vacuous as they are plentiful, and as annoying as they are vacuous, as they are plentiful, as they are meaningless, as they are almost, counterproductive to some way. Like, why don't we let's embrace the depression. Maybe we could do something with that. That's not new, right? That's the Stoic way of looking at life, right? Is to, yes, everything is horrible, and we're all going to die, and nothing that we do matters. But let's see, maybe we can have fun before that happens. And then we're talking about the coping mechanisms of distraction and putting faith in other things, etc. I want to say thank you very much to Q and to all of you for the birthday card. That was amazing. And also a donation was made to Gideon's Promise in my name, I was really, really thrilled about that. That made me feel good for about 5 minutes. I think imposter syndrome is a healthy reaction to being surrounded by a bunch of people who are pretending like they know more than they do. I've come to, I have had imposter syndrome a lot, and I keep getting driven towards the conclusion that imposter syndrome is not me, it's you. If you are in a group of people, whether it be your work or your friends, co-workers, co-collaborators, whatever it is. I remember I had a book on calculus that was written by Richard Feynman, who was a brilliant quantum physicist. No, it wasn't written by Richard Feynman, but it was I forget the guy's name. But it was essentially like the opening of the book was like, you think calculus is hard. That's because it is in the best interests of calculus professors for you to believe that it is hard. It's actually not hard. It's actually pretty easy if it's broken down in the right way, and you're not forced to use like these systems that are being used by traditional institutes of education. And then it went ahead and it broke it down in a way that was very understandable. I remember reading that book and just being like, holy shit. Like, I've been being told a lie my whole life. Like, this is all gatekeeping. That's what this is. So if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, I think it might behoove you to take a moment to kind of look around and say, like, are these people just gatekeeping me in a passive-aggressive manner, right? Like, making me feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's really like nobody knows what they're talking about. Just some people pretend like they do know what they're talking about, and some people will know that you think you don't know what you're talking about, and then they will play off that and make you feel worse in order to make them feel better. And then you start to look at them like, well, this person really seems to know what they're talking about. And then you tell someone else, and you're like, wow, that person's like a subject matter expert on this very, very, like, difficult to understand and circuitous kind of system. I don't want to get into like the specifics of my work, but so, rely on them. They're important. And then, those people get promoted and they're sitting there going, I have no idea what I'm talking about either. I just did a rug pull. Wait, I said I felt good? Oh, yes, but it was fleeting. But I did feel good. Yeah, that felt really nice. Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But I mean, if all you know up until like one part of your life is algebraic equations, and then someone introduces the calculus to you, especially if they do it in a way that they did it. Maybe it's different now. Like, I don't know. I have no idea how Common Core has affected the way more advanced mathematics are taught. No clue. But if it's the way it used to be, it came as a bit of a surprise to be told, like, yeah, you can't solve this with a linear equation. There you go, Jeff. Exactly. Yeah. So Warp Raven, I think that generally, if you feel imposter syndrome, it's very likely that the problem is not you. But you don't think so right now. Well, yeah. Yeah, everything is fleeting. Is that supposed to make me feel better, Amy? The all things must pass? Because it doesn't. I don't know why that would make anyone feel better, right? Like, that is a, even depression, like, to quote the philosopher William Corgan, I'm in love with my sadness. So even the idea that a negative emotion might be not fleeting could very much be a positive to a lot of people. To me, like I get into periods where, wallowing, yeah, malingering, right? There's a bunch of words for it. Well, I'm gonna do. Here's what I'm gonna do, Indigo. The thing that, you feel depressed, stop feeling depressed. You feel imposter syndrome, stop feeling imposter syndrome. You spelled imposter wrong. That was mean. That was mean of me. That was mean-spirited. I couldn't resist it, and I apologize. I'm not one to talk. I pronounce things wrong all the damn time. One thing I do not pronounce wrong, however, is respite. It's respite, not respite. If you're saying respite, please update your pronunciation of respite to respite. Post haste immediately. Hey, am I paying you? It's not the comfort of the familiar of feeling bad. It is the comfort of reliability. It is the comfort of some amount of control, which I know I don't have, and none of us has. Right? Yeah, so this is interesting. No, I gotta move this here. Yeah. People, I definitely think like this from time to time, and it works occasionally. My problem with this is like that is also fleeting, right? And for me, I'm terrible on the spot, right? I'm a person where if it's like, okay, do this problem, solve this issue, do this thing, and you tell me to go off and do it, spend a day or two doing it, and come back with a solution. I'm good at that. I'm not a bad chess player. Speaking of which, I want to talk about some events that happened in chess. I'm a horrible boggle player. I'm a horrible. You put a damn timer somewhere where I can see it, and I become a blithering buffoon. I can't put two words together. I just can't do it. Which when I think about that, and then I think about like playing music, I do feel like music must allow me to get into some kind of a flow state. And sometimes I feel it breaking, right? Sometimes I get that dissociation sometimes. Like I did a stream last night that sucked, right? I was just rehearsing. And I was like, oh, why don't I stream rehearsing? But then it's hard for me to just like rehearse in front of anybody, right? I knew it was a bad idea when I started because I wasn't ready, right? I wasn't feeling confident about like my ability to do that stuff. And it's one thing like when you're in a band, there's very much like whenever I was in a band, and I don't know if this was a feeling that I developed or cultivated, but I was always in bands with people who I looked up to more than me. So I was always in bands with people where like their opinion mattered. In my mind, their opinion mattered more than mine did. So it was always like, well, if they like it, if they think it's good enough, then I'm smacked down. I'm right on confident that it's good enough. And I would be able to kind of lean on that, and alcohol. Now that I'm thinking about it a little more, a lot of it was alcohol. In order to be able to play in front of people, right? Because you would think that though that type of brain, the type of brain that I have, that does better when there's not a time constraint. Music is the ultimate time constraint. You've got to do things, at the right time. Even if you're saying, well, it's jazz or whatever, right? You've got to be on your feet there. So you might not think, although I understand like left brain, right brain stuff, right? But you would think that there would be some correlation there. Like a good musician would be somebody who's good under pressure and can play boggle. And I'm not saying I'm a good musician, but I could get up on the stage and generally not mess up. And it would be because I would be getting into some kind of flow state, and in a band situation because I would care less about what the people listening thought, than what the people who were with me thought. And I was already comfortable with them. So that made it like, it was always easy to like rely on people. You lose that then when it's just you, right? And then it's weird. Like I will sometimes feel myself like leaning on different parts of me in a way that could be described as probably dissociative also, where, if I'm holding a guitar or playing a guitar and it's like, well, I'm not feeling very confident about this part when it comes to like singing it or something like that. Maybe I'll play a guitar part and prolong that guitar part and not do the singing part. Or do, play 8 bars of that thing instead of 4 before going into the singing part. Let's switch over to this camera for a few minutes. Just for variety, just for fun. So I'm not clear. I don't know exactly what my point was, but I guess the ability to dissociate. Again, I feel like it comes back to control. Like you have to have the ability to control it. If it springs up on you in the middle of something and you don't control it and it causes you to go off the rails, then you're fucked. By the way, it just occurred to me that I named this episode Cheer Me Up. It's also the name of a Descendant song that I quite like. Well, maybe the name of the song is just Cheer, but the lyrics are Cheer Me Up. Absolutely, Jeff. This is absolutely true. Like if I was playing with people who I didn't feel like I had anything to learn from them, I would be very bored and not want to do it. And yeah, I played with a guy named Juan Montoya who played in a bunch of bands, played in a band called Torch, a band called Monstro with some of the guys from Mastodon, went on tour or toured in this band Killer Be Killed, which was a singer from Sepultura, bass player from Mastodon. It was like a super group. And I remember playing with him, and I was very young and very metal influenced, and he was just like, the stuff he would play just amazed me. Like, taught me completely new things, completely new ways to think about what to play. And a lot of the times now, like when I'm playing nylon string stuff and trying to come up with stuff, I will often be like, oh, this is like something Juan would play. Juan is the name of the guy. So yeah, like even just like he would never. Like he would, like he'd always play chords like that. Just weird stuff, right? And like weird syncopation, which I can't really do here on this guitar, but stuff that was totally outside my wheelhouse, and it really sort of, got my gears going. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm not sure that I'm following. Did I say that? The point that I was trying to make there was like, I wanted to be playing with people whose opinion of me mattered more than the opinion of other people. So, if I felt like, if one was like, okay, that was good, that's good, I think we're good, and that was enough for me to be confident in doing whatever it was I was doing. Moby Dick. Oh man, that looks like quite a pill. Figure out something that is internally bothering me but eludes, ELUDES, me. I'm making myself feel better about myself by being a grammar Nazi. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I am right. Yes, Lexi. Yeah. And I was usually the youngest of the group, so that fits right in. I didn't have a brother. I had an older sister, but you know how that stuff goes. But anyway, so yeah, I'm fucking 50 years old now. And there's nothing inherently wrong with being 50. I don't feel bad. I feel like I've been, exercising more now than I ever have in my life. I feel more sort of capable. I feel more confident in my estimation of like who I am amidst my peers. But it doesn't change the fact that, right, like when you're 30, you can look forward to being 50 and say, well, yeah, I'm going to be 50 and that's going to suck, but I'll pretty much be the same person faculty-wise, physically-wise, generally. And we're talking about what's likely to happen, not what might happen. Yes, you could die tomorrow, right? We could all die tomorrow. Right? I get that. But at 50, you really are running up against a wall there, right? Like when you're 70, you're not going to be the person you were at 50. Like, not even close. I feel like there are just some biological brick walls that your telomeres just don't have the longevity to keep. And the problems that I will run into in the next 20 years are problems that I just wouldn't really think about prior to now, right? So it's a whole mess of things that I need to start thinking about that I have never really thought about before, like the prostate exam, right? Which, although I, have those, they're kind of fun. The first time I had a prostate exam was not. I was actually very young. I was actually, I think, in my late 20s, and can't make this TMI, but it's in my late 20s, and I had diarrhea for like 2 months. I must have had some kind of parasite. Like, it was horrible. I lost maybe 20 pounds. I was just like burning, like everything burned. I remember, and it would just be like wet toothpaste. This is for like 2 months. This went on, and I remember like finally going to a gastroenterologist and gave me a prostate exam. Right there. It was the first thing that they did, and I remember feeling very ashamed. I remember walking out into the waiting room and swearing that like everybody was staring at me. Just being like, my eyes on the floor. And now, like, I wouldn't give a fuck about that kind of thing. And I don't really know why I gave a fuck about it then, but I did. But yeah. Going to the dentist tomorrow, because I had that cracked a tooth. I went to my general practitioner on Monday, and she suggested a few things. She suggested I speak to an addiction specialist. She wondered if I was interested in a surface laser peel treatment. And I really like this doctor, but it was just like, oh man, like, I don't know. Is there like, did they look on the chart and see that, 50 plus, here are the things that get asked of this. Oh, and look at this. Like this is the kind of shit that's bombarding me now, right? This is, like, just randomly showing up in my, what was this? I think this was a Chiron on CNN. Like, I just went to CNN, saw this. So I'm clearly, like, I'm being targeted. I've moved into this demographic, and when you look at that horrifying, I have it here somewhere, don't I? I do. I think it's actually worth looking for, because it's so terrifying. Let me get rid of this one. It's terrifying for you all too. This is going to be terrifying for everybody. If I can find it. This. No, not that. That's also terrifying. It's funny how much stuff I have. COVID numbers. Oh, remember this? This was hilarious. Are movies getting longer? What a great article this was. Why it feels like movies are getting longer. And the answer was, some types of movies aren't longer, but some are definitely longer. But not everyone is longer. But some of them are longer. So, therefore, movies are getting longer. We're getting the impression that movies are longer because movies are getting longer. Definitely worth worth writing an article about. I don't know what all these are. Oh. Some of these are not named, so I don't know what they're from. But I'm trying to find a particular one. Maybe it's possible that I deleted it because I just couldn't possibly, like, it was too terrifying for me to have there. Oh, this. Look who that is. That's me in Fallout 4. I have another one. Why do I have another one? Oh, uh-oh. Got a spinning wheel. Oh, that's not what I meant to show there. Okay. That's what I meant to show. Okay. Okay, maybe I'm not going to be able to find it, but it was one of those data's beautiful things that is... No, I've got to find it. It just showed, it plotted age versus chance of dying. Using color to denote percentage chance of dying at that age. Wait, I'm getting close to the bottom here. So it's probably got to be... No. Probably what it is it's here. Oh, that's Charlie. It's here, and I didn't name it properly. I'm never going to be able to find it without going through a whole bunch of shit. But yeah, so it showed, it showed age, and then a color for your chance of dying, at that age. And it was just amazing to like kind of watch, like, as you go up, right, like the colors get to the point where eventually you hit 1. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, Warp Raven. You did not have COVID, though. I'm hoping. I hope. Klonopin is great. Got it right here. Cool thing about Klonopin, one of the many cool things about Klonopin, is let's put this off the screen. Right, you can swallow it if you want. They also have sublingual ones, right? But any of them, you can just suck at them, chew on them. They kind of taste like Smarties. I'm glad you gave that the sarcasm slash there, Charlie. But yeah, Klonopin are great. They're definitely my benzo of choice. I think they were Peterson's benzo of choice. They do something weird with Coke, though. I can't even finish that Coke. I'm really good at doing that. You can swallow it. Yes, you can swallow it. You can chew it. Yeah. I'm not going to start about Peterson. Not talking about Jordan Peterson tonight. I do want to talk a little bit catch up with what everyone's saying. Yeah, I'm aware of this, Charlie. Yeah. And that's the other great thing, Stacy, right? Is like you could put Klonopin in, like, I mean, I tend to keep a contact lens case with my sort of emergency medications in it. But generally, if someone sees you pop something in your mouth and then you chew it, they're not thinking psychiatric medication. So, how many milligrams is that? 0.5. But whatever. I remember taking Xanax and stuff like that for shits and giggles. Now I take them to get through the day. That's these here. So yeah, Klonopin, Xanax, got them all. But they don't do get freaking high from them. I'm able to function with them. And they're not like look, drugs affect everybody differently, and addiction is a problem. And addiction is a problem for people to varying amounts. It's definitely a problem for me, and a problem for me genetically. And yeah, I completely believe that Jordan Peterson had a hell of a time getting off of benzodiazepines. Obviously, I have no idea what he was taking, but my guess would be, and this is pure speculation, that he was addicted to opiates. That would be my guess. That would be my guess, because if you took away my benzos right now, or you could taper them, and I think I would just be okay. Wouldn't be a big deal. The big deal would be the panic attacks that I might get after being off of them. But that's not. By the way, I'm not a doctor. Just in case. Well, so chew. It depends on the medication. If you chew Xanax, you're gonna regret it dearly. Although I think, as I've mentioned before, I have some amount of a Pavlovian response to the taste of Xanax. You put Xanax on your tongue even for like a second, and it just tastes horrible. And yet it has a calmative effect on me even before there's any chance that it could be in my bloodstream. And even though it tastes horrible. Hey, Lisa, by the way, hello. How are you doing? It's been a bit. Yeah, this is probably and it just hasn't been a problem for me. Benzos have not been a problem for me. Like, I have the prescriptions for them, and I never ever take the amount that I'm supposed to take. I often will go a day or two without taking them. Look, I'm just guessing. Lisa, you're in a funk yourself. I'm sorry. It's rough because we're heading into October. The proverbial cuffing season is right around the corner. As I mentioned before, the year is sort of exhibiting the symptoms of its own demise. It starts with just a brief chill at night that goes away during the day, like the starting symptoms of a consumptive, and eventually it will cripple the world. and thus they speak of cuffing season, where people are basically just like, shit, winter's coming. I better find somebody to weather the weather with. And that's been like, yeah. The depression has definitely hit, and it seems to hit, with some degree of regularity around this time of year. And, if you're single, it's worse. If you're sort of nursing the wounds of a comparatively recent breakup, then maybe even worse. Nasha, this is really, really important and good to do. I can't tell you how many times. If I follow a schedule, right, I am totally fine. Like, I wake up in the morning, I do certain things, then I take my morning pills, etc., right? But if something interrupts that schedule, then I will find it like, it'll be like 9:30, and I'll be like, ooh, shit. Don't know if I took my pills today or not. And then what I do is I end up taking half of each, which means I am definitely either over-medicating or under-medicating, right? Am I done talking about exams? Don't know what you're talking about there. Oh yeah, Grace. That doesn't do it for me at all. I'm not an animal person. It's been pointed out to me that is another possible indicator of BPD or some disorder that I may or may not have. I grew up in a house with animals, like lots of animals. Certainly have been around them a lot when I was growing up. And the first thing I did when I moved out was basically like, yeah, I'm not getting another cat or dog after this. As long as you make some people laugh, bring a small amount of joy, you're happy. This doesn't do it for me either. I don't think I have healthy habits. I don't hate animals. I feel about animals the way many people feel about kids, and that I love other people's animals. I just don't want them myself. Anyway, so other stuff that I wanted to talk about tonight, because it's been a bit. I finally saw Hamilton in the flesh. I've heard it hundreds of times. I've seen the movie a couple of times, probably in bits, many more than that, but like start to finish a couple of times. My son is so into Hamilton, much like Colin Robinson on this past episode of What We Do in the Shadows, which I still think was a weak season of What We Do in the Shadows. See, here is how that it might happen to me in that kind of a situation. Yes, that's probably the only way that I would end up with an animal. Or, as a compromise with somebody who was really, really into animals. I mean, I was in a relationship this was just in 2017, living in a studio apartment in DC with a pit, a chihuahua, and 2 cats. Maybe it was 3 cats. Yeah, it was 3 cats. 3 cats, a pit, 3 cats and 2 dogs in a studio apartment in downtown Washington, D.C. Oh, boy. I dealt with it. It was actually kind of freeing, in the same way that I've sometimes felt free when I get to the point where it's just my credit's fucked and I don't care about shit coming in. I can just be whatever, man. Send me a bill. What are you gonna threaten me with? Hitting my credit? I don't give a fuck anymore. In a way, it was freeing because there was no keeping this apartment clean. So it's just a matter of letting go. I will say that the only videos I made in that time were videos that I made at hotels and stuff. But whatever, my schedule of one video a month could certainly afford going to a cheap hotel once a month. I love cheap hotels. Anyway, let me finish the Hamilton thing. So for my son's 8th birthday, I got Hamilton tickets for him. And he'd seen it once before. But this was special because it was the anniversary of the opening. So it was, he was very excited. I was very excited. Went to pick him up. He was dressed in button-down shirt and sort of pants and a tie. He looked like a little man with his glasses on. Fucking brought a tear to my eye before I even got in the car because kid's fucking 8, man. He's at the point now where he's starting to want to be sure that things are cool, that he's not being seen as not being so cool. And so he was kind of talking down the event. He was kind of yeah, I've already seen it. Yeah, this is a different cast. Kind of like it wasn't a big deal. We had 4th row seats, which were fucking, what the fuck, man? And yes, it's at the Kennedy Center, so it's great. You're you're driving by the Jefferson Memorial and Lincoln Memorial, and you're there at the Kennedy Center, and you're watching a play about the Founding Fathers, and it's great. And the Kennedy Center is beautiful. We had 4th row seats, and there was the way that it was arranged, right? The way it was kind of to the side, and we were on the aisle, and I got him the aisle seat because I figured if there was any problems with him with the sight line, that he could just kind of lean over into the aisle a little bit and be able to see just fine. But before the show started, he was just complaining about oh, there's someone ahead of me. He was sitting on his feet doing all the stuff that I do. And I was oh man, maybe he's not going to enjoy this so much. But man, the moment the curtain, when the lights went down, he grabbed my hand. He just grabbed my hand, and he did not let go of it for the whole, until intermission, and would squeeze it at certain parts, and then would get quiet and lean over to me and be "This is the Reynolds pamphlet. This one. Oh, this is my shot. That one's different. That and the King George in this production was, hilarious. Did things slightly different than the King George in the movie, in the Broadway production, and was hilarious. And he was just pointing out every little difference, and just I could see I was just looking over at him the whole time, and he was just this, his head on a swivel. Not moving from watching it. He didn't want to blink, and squeezing my hand, which was amazing. I don't get a lot of moments like that because I have anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to watching kids alone. I'm always worried that something's going to happen to me. And then I think because of my past. Like I'm very like I want there to be like another adult there in case of emergency. Like I don't want I don't want to be the last bastion of like of if something goes wrong. I'm the adult. I'm the one that has to figure out all this shit. I'm not super comfortable with that, so I get really anxious. But I was able to let that go. Well, I had some help in that department, but it was great. It was and I was able to enjoy it. I thought it was I still think it's a pretty wonderful musical. I do feel like if you've seen one Lin-Manuel Miranda show, you've kind of seen all of them. Like his writing is pretty well. In the Heights and Hamilton are very similar in a lot of ways, musically, I suppose, or lyrically. But anyway, amazing. Had a great time, and he had a great time. So that was super enjoyable. Yeah, that was a good day, and I was exhausted. It was weird. I was strangely exhausted afterwards. Not really sure why. Probably I'm sure it was like my anxiety was heightened, so I had to take things for said heightened anxiety, and then there's inevitably some amount of a crash after that. Well, no fucking duh, Moby Dick. Okay, go. Why don't you go take a bite out of Queequeg? Literally, I called this "Cheer Me Up." No, I'm fucking with you. Oh yeah, Phantom is fantastic. Phantom is amazing. There we go. Does that feel better? Nasha, I think both you and Lisa are in Baltimore. Or Baltimore area. I don't want to, I guess, give out other people's information. That's not really mine to give out. But something like that. But yeah, no, I'm a musical freak, I guess. I know there's a lot of like disdain for theater kids, and I suppose like with Glee and with all the fucking shit, I probably wouldn't like theater kids either. But I sure do love musicals. Started with it started with Annie. Started with seeing Annie when I was very little in Miami, Coconut Grove Playhouse. I remember it very, very well. And I remember Andrea McCardle as Annie. Like I remember all of this. I don't even know how old I was, but I was probably Charles's age, 7, something like that. And then saw Cats in its opening week and was too young to realize that Andrew Lloyd Webber is kind of a hack, although Phantom is good. It does completely steal echoes from Pink Floyd, but that's fine. There's more to Phantom of the Opera than a riff. Then 42nd Street, saw the original off-Broadway production of Little Shop of Horrors, which had Tisha Campbell in it, who was then in the movie later. But I remember, like, it's so weird, I remember the smell of that theater. And it was must and mold, but that smell stuck with me. And I remember being haunted by the ending of Little Shop of Horrors, which the movie has a happy ending, but originally the play Audrey 2 devours everybody, and the last number is the curtain goes down and comes up, and Audrey 2 just has enveloped the stage, and there are blossoms everywhere, and every character is a face in the blossom, one of the blossoms singing the final number. I was haunted by that. And when I saw the movie, I was disappointed by the fact that they sanitized it. But now, of course, I love the movie. And then Grease, of course. Like, sorry, I know it's a sacrilege, but huge Grease fan. And this is all when I was, I was just a kid. I can remember like that trip to New York City. It was one of my first trips to New York City. My dad had like a conference there or something. And I remember seeing posters that were ads for the first Nightmare on Elm Street. And I remember being haunted by that too. And I was like, I've got to see that when it comes out. I have got to see this thing. Because it was just Nancy in the bed, but it wasn't Nancy. It was like it was just a painting of an actress who vaguely resembled the actor who played Nancy. And then, the finger claws were like coming up over the top. Quite haunting. Like I can remember staring at it and like walking past it, kind of being like, being scared, but also intrigued. I'm afraid, but I am also intrigued. I believe I did eventually end up seeing that movie, not in the theater, at home, hiding behind my sofa. I just kind of like watching it like from behind the sofa. Kind of go down. And then I remember seeing the sequel and being like, what the fuck? It's a comedy now. It's not. And I enjoyed the sequel, but it was not anywhere near as frightening as the first one. And maybe part of that was my age too. Right? Like, what is scary at 10 is not scary anymore. My stepdaughter is currently, so she just recently turned 13, and she was like, you got to tell Mom that I can see the black phone. Like, I've read it. She has the Joe Hill anthology. I've read it. I got to see it. Now, she's seen it. And I understand, right? Like, if you've seen Sinister, and you're like, well, this is about the guy who did Sinister, and it's got Ethan Hawke in it, and it's about a child serial killer, and it's got this iconic kind of looking villain, the Grabber. The movie is like under-delivers on every front to the point where like I feel like Charles could see that movie and not be, particularly frightened by it. It is way, way more frightening. And it's weird because the black phone is R, and I think it was PG-13 or something. There was something about, hold on, I gotta look this up here. I don't want to be talking shit. You're not gonna tell me the fucking rating? You're not telling me the rating on the damn Wikipedia page? Oh, it's R. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it is R, which I honestly, like, I would be surprised if it was not R. But the black phone is rated R, and it doesn't really need to be. I don't feel like it was. Oh, well, yeah, The Exorcist. Yeah, that was. Oh my God, Watership Down. You all are talking about movies that definitely like left imprints on me. The Exorcist 3 really did it for me. Even more than The Exorcist at the time. I think maybe looking back now, well, the thing is, what's weird about The Exorcist 3 is it's a really funny, well done George C. Scott police procedural with demonic possession tacked on and some very frightening moments. But in general, just like seeing George C. Scott going around being the frustrated, grizzled detective that he is, trying to convince people that there's something more going on here, losing his shit like multiple times to his oblivious peers and captain. It's an interesting mashup of movies, which for people who know like the story of it, like it wasn't supposed to be an Exorcist movie. It was William Peter Blatty's. It was based on a book of his called Legion, which had nothing to do with The Exorcist, but they wouldn't make it into a movie unless it was part of The Exorcist. So he made it The Exorcist. And it definitely feels that way. It feels like it's just sort of like, okay, let's take this. But the thing is, it's a well-done movie. It is a well-done movie. And Midnight Mass takes a lot from Exorcist 3. Yeah, it's got some cheesy things. You can tell Exorcist 3 was like made the year that colored contacts were widely available to production houses, because man, they just gave the villain like the cheesiest colored contacts that are like red on the outside, yellow on the inside, the kind you can get for like $20 now. They appear in just about every cosplay of a demon or in ASMR videos, and it's just really clear that it's like, oh, it's that pair of contacts. You can see those on Charles Fleischer in Exorcist 3. They just didn't do anything more than that. They were just like, okay, we'll give him the contacts, and we'll like put some makeup around his eyes to make it a little bit red, and voila, Pazuzu is in you, right? Yeah, I think I read it in my school library. Either it or The Stand. I might have bought it. I eventually bought both of them, but I think the first time I read either it or The Stand was in my school library. And I remember just like finding any moment that I could at school or at home, like just sitting down in the hallway between classes to read a few more pages. And I have been reading Fairy Tale, Stephen King's latest, and the first half is great. And the second half is, although I'm not totally done with it, the second half is the kind of Stephen King that I am not a fan of, which is it just goes full fantasy. Boy goes through portal, finds fantasy world, Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. But with some body horror. It's a weird way for him to go. Like he was trying to find an angle. It seemed like also like, well, whatever. I'm not going to give Stephen King any shit. What I'm trying to be open to the cheer. Look, if you don't, right? If I don't, I'm making good on this promise here. Okay? If I'm not cheered up sufficiently, this is going to happen. This is not an idle threat. Whoops. Okay? I will do this, and I will never return. I will enter the metaverse. I will shed my earthly coil and become the built-up avatar that Mark Zuckerberg wants me to be. I will willingly give in. How much data am I going to give up in order to walk around? No, they would not. Interesting profile picture. Definitely not. I agree. But I did really like some of his post-accident. I mean, I really like the Mr. Mercedes series. In fact, I would say those are among my favorite. And here's the thing: is I really loved the Gunslinger, the first 3 books, and then it just went into this shit that I just couldn't care less about. Could not care less about. You're saying I must get Beat Saber. I'm pretty sure it comes with it, doesn't it? It says it comes with. I mean, if it doesn't come with it, this is a little misleading. Is this just showing the games you could play on it, or the games that come with it? I assumed it came with Beat Saber, Jurassic World Aftermath, The Climb 2, Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, Horizon, and Population 1. I assumed it came with these. That thing wasn't cheap. But maybe not. Yeah, apparently Beat Saber is what I keep hearing about. And in part that is because, right, when it seems like there is this urge when designing virtual reality activities and or games to mirror traditional media instead of playing to the strengths of what you can and can't do in VR. And Beat Saber seems to be the thing that, or one of the very few games that does actually play to the strengths of VR. So yes, Beat Saber, I will. Yeah. Sign me up. I will tell Mark as much information as he wants. I will look at all of the advertisement billboards. I will speak a lot, and their voice recognition will be able to determine so much about me. And my ads will get even more targeted. And who knows where that data will be sold. Man, Pivy. It's funny. Funny, though. All right. So what else do I have here? Right. So, okay. So, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Magnus Carlsen resigned his match against Hans Niemann after one move. One move, was it? Well, yeah, because he was black, and Hans made 2 pawn moves. Magnus made 1 knight move, and then he just dropped. It's a big deal for those of you who have not followed Magnus Carlsen. That guy is, I mean, I would love to see his brain. I would love for somebody to remove his brain from his head and slice it to 1 millimeter sections and compare it with the brain of, I don't know. Whoever I say, it's going to be insulting. Let's just look. Rush Limbaugh, right? How maggot ridden is his brain's long gone. Bill O'Reilly. This is about the anal beads. Yes. So, all right, let me give you the rundown. As one who enjoys watching and to some extent playing chess. Okay. So Hans is basically, okay, there's an accusation that Hans Niemann has been cheating and cheated more than he's been caught cheating in the past multiple times. But he says it was when he was young and before he devoted his life to chess, etc., etc. And he doesn't do it anymore. And he cheated on online games, which is not that uncommon. Like, that's something that isn't talked about that much. But cheating online is not difficult to do. It's not that easy to catch, especially, I mean, if you're at the upper echelons of play, then yeah, I mean, if you're going for like a, $250,000 prize, then yeah, it's going to be scrutinized. But it's another interesting use of AI, and I'm not talking about here when I say another interesting use. Another interesting use of AI. No, I'm not talking about the chess engine AI. Chess engine AIs are just they're just, a chess engine AI to some extent is blunt forcing solutions to the problem. Right? It is able to analyze the millions and millions of possible combinations up to, an end game and then give you the best move for any given thing. Whatever, man. There have been 2,500 plus rated chess engines for a long time, and when Kasparov was defeated by, it's strange, when Kasparov was defeated by Deep Blue, the inverse suspicion was actually made, which was that humans were helping the AI. Nobody thought the computer could possibly beat Garry Kasparov, and as a result, they were well, there had to be a human helping the computer. And now it's the opposite, right? Nobody questions for a moment that, yeah, of course the computer could calculate. This is a finite set of possibilities here. Throw enough cycles at it, and you're going to get the right answer. There is a right answer, right? So anyway, so Magnus Carlsen has been he's a character which helps, right? Young guy, brilliant, and takes himself seriously, but not too seriously, and just destroys everybody. Has a reasonable amount of humility, considering the fact that almost nobody can play white the way that he does. So whatever, he's his ascendancy, and he even makes jokes at his own expense, right? One that I thought was particularly funny. He was asked who he thought the best chess player in the world was, and his response, and this is a fairly recent question, his response was something like, me 5 years ago, right? Acknowledging his own possible decline, But Hans Niemann is a relative newcomer, and the thing is, I don't think this is known, right? It's known that he cheated, but then it's also known that he stopped competing on chess.com, which is the main chess base. for 6 months. And like nobody knows why, right? But the understanding is that he was banned for cheating again, right? The difference here is, right, that this is over the board playing that's going on. This is not online playing. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. And the way that it was determined, or the way that the suspicion was brought about, is you can just be like, oh, well, he beat Magnus Carlsen, and Magnus is like, there's no way this kid could beat me. He must have been cheating. That's not where the evidence is coming from. The evidence is coming from, like, when you analyze the games of super grandmasters, people with, 4,000 ratings, super high ratings. When you compare those games, like, you can go back and just look at every game that's ever been played in ChessBase, every professional match, they're all recorded, and you can compare them against like Stockfish or whatever the most powerful chess engines are of the time. You can compare the moves that were made by these chess grandmasters with the moves that the AI would have made. And generally what you see is, like, even with these 2,500 plus players, they're not aligned to what the chess engine would play more than like 50 or 60% of the time. Even Magnus Carlsen, I think, is only aligned like on average 70%. So like 30% of the time, he's making a move that the best chess computer would say is not the best move, right? And this is someone who's widely considered to be the best living chess player, possibly the best chess player of all time. So what's weird then is that Hans Niemann's games, generally, when they're analyzed, cleave to the best move the chess computer would suggest 99% of the time. 95 plus. A lot of them are 99. And to me, that's like statistically, like, what are you saying there? Right? Are you saying that Hans Niemann's brain is generationally, like, just like orders of magnitude better? Because it's diminishing returns when you get to that level of play, right? Like, to go from cleaving 70% to what a chess computer does to 71% is fucking huge, right? Going from 20% to 30% is not that big. It's like losing weight, right? Like, you start losing weight, if you have a lot of weight to lose, you can lose a lot pretty quick. Once you get to that incredibly high level of play, you're talking about like increments of 0.1% make a huge difference. And he's jumping 28% over the best player in the world in some of his games, right? Bullshit, man. That's fucking bullshit. Like, there may not be a way to say, like, circumstantially, that evidence is enough for me to be like, this guy is absolutely 100% cheating. There's no way that he is not cheating. But there's no way you could just be like, no, this guy is just so good at chess that he is as good as the greatest living chess computers right now. Living chess computers. The greatest sentient AI chess computers right now. Sure, yeah. He just comes in and like, you have hundreds and hundreds of players who are playing at a level where they're just eking each other out by fractions. And he comes in and he's beating everybody by, an order of magnitude, a couple of orders of magnitude. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous to like, these are extraordinary claims and they require extraordinary evidence. Like, you would normally say, like, innocent until proven guilty. I think this is a case where you're like, how do you play? And here's another question is like, and this almost throws doubt on the idea that he's cheating, is like, why would he not throw in more moves to throw off the fact that he was cleaving so close to a chess computer results, unless he didn't think it would be analyzed that way? But he knows how these things are analyzed. Maybe he wasn't thinking that far ahead. I don't know, right? Like, I have no idea. It's weird. But either, there's only two alternatives. Either he is the world's greatest chess player not just by like a fraction, but he is either the world's greatest chess player by, he's either twice as good as the second best chess player. And we're talking about like hundreds and hundreds of these super GMs here. He's either like way, way above all of them, like Magnus is, right here, way above all of them, or he's cheating. And I think it's pretty clear that he's cheating. And the other sort of point of evidence that backs that up is that when he talks about his games, when he analyzes the games that he plays, first of all, he is a grandmaster or a super grandmaster. Like he can play chess with like the best of them. And that's what also makes this really difficult, right? Is like, because you're dealing in like the stratosphere of the air there is so thin, it's so rare, right? And like I said, like the margins of like what constitutes a win versus a loss, we're talking like a single move, right? Like a single blunder. It becomes tough because like it's not like he's just some guy who was playing casually and now all of a sudden he's beating grandmasters. He was an established grandmaster prior to this. But that just muddies the water even more. He has a history of cheating. He's playing not incrementally better than Magnus, which is how you would expect something like this to happen, right? Not just like one order of magnitude better, but multiple orders of magnitude better. So he has a history of cheating. He is showing a level of mastery in tournament play that he hasn't shown in the past. He's mysteriously been banned from ChessBase for 6 months for undisclosed reasons. And he doesn't seem to be able to analyze his own games very well. And let's not like completely discount the fact that Magnus Carlsen, who is considered the greatest chess mind alive right now, has explicitly accused him of cheating based on like his analysis. So, and that's, anecdotal, right? But it is, I think it would be foolish to dismiss that because based on who Magnus is, right? All right, did I totally lose everybody here? So yeah, the idea with the anal beads is that, he just has somebody feeding him rank and file through Morse code or even just through like buzzing. All he would need would be like, there's only, be A through H and 1 through 8 or 9. So it would just have to be 2 buzzes, 2 series of slightly pleasant buzzes to let him know what the best next move would be. He probably wouldn't even need that. Like he'd probably just need like the rank, and then he could probably deduce from that, what the best move would be. So very simple communication would be needed, and someone would either need to be seeing the games as they happen, or he would need to be able to feed, and this is where it would get more complicated. He would need to be able to feed the moves that are happening as they're happening. Now, the chessboard move to delay the showing of those games by 15 minutes so that you can't have, like, say, somebody watching this on, streaming or whatever and feeding Hans the information, because it would be 15 minutes too late. But that move happened after the games in question. So the only thing here that is a little strange to me is Magnus has pledged never to play Hans Niemann again. And I do feel like it would be good to have some kind of game where it was like they're in a Faraday cage or something, right? Where it's impossible for any sort of communication to happen in or out. And just to see what happens there, it doesn't seem like we're going to get that. I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be, because unless they're able to prove that Hans Niemann is cheating, then I don't know. It seems like the whole, and look, I'm not like big into esports, right? It's not like my thing. But I do feel like if we're going to really dive in and learn a lot about something and dedicate time to one of these games, why not like chess seems like a great one to do. Like a great game to get young people interested in. A great way to develop strategic thinking, a great way to develop the ability to operate under pressure. It's better than slots. I would say it's better than poker. Right? And poker has, some redeeming qualities as well, but the fact that it's gambling is probably not so great. But you can gamble on chess games, obviously, gamble on anything. Yeah, Morse code. Yeah, but it wouldn't even really. You could do Morse code, but that's almost overcomplicating it, because all you need is rank and file. So yeah, you could do Morse code, but you look. Like if you had an anal bead, let's just say you had an anal bead, okay, that could vibrate. In order to communicate your position, you would only need to do 2 series of pulses between 1 and 8. So, and actually it could be it would have to be between 1 and 8. So just, how long would that take? Even if, and this would rarely ever happen, it was something like, H8, 2 pulses of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Could take 2 seconds. You wouldn't even need to go to Morse. There's no need to feed more than 1 move ahead. They sure do, Lexi. Oh, Grace, so here are you suggesting that, like, as you continue to play, your understanding of the best way to approach these solutions is evolving, and you're just sort of naturally, like, without necessarily like going to like a how to be the best crossword player, right? Like kind of site or anything like that. You're just your method of play is naturally evolving. Dude, it's $1 million on the line. I don't think it would be a long conversation. It would be yep. I'll definitely do it. We'll definitely do it. And if there was back and forth, you can just do your Kegels. Maybe like you'd have to message back. Was that a 7 or an 8? I'm unclear. There's another possibility. Like when we're talking about, for instance, right, like if you're gonna cheat, you don't want it to be so obvious that you're cheating. So you would probably throw some blunders in there, which it doesn't seem like Hans Niemann was doing. If the method of communication is not necessarily foolproof, you might think that would happen anyway. So you might think that there's no need to do that, and you wouldn't know until afterwards. Empirically, no, Nasha. Empirically, there should be nothing wrong with using anal beads during a chess game. Perhaps it stimulates the hypothalamus. I mean, but this could be anything. Like you could put these things. They could be under your skin. Like we're not talking about. They could be in your fillings. There's so many possible ways that this could happen. Like if all you need to get across is like so little information. There are a lot of ways that it could happen, and there are ways to block things like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and radio waves, right? So, but I don't know. I haven't looked into this so much. I wonder like what sort of thing you need to do to make sure that there's no way for there to be wireless communication between two devices that serve as their own transmitter and receiver. I don't know. Does a Faraday cage do that? I don't know. Yeah, you're right. See, like this is the other thing, right? That, or maybe they just need rank, right? Or file. I think that they would probably need to know. I mean, if they're going up against another grandmaster, they would probably need to know a little more than how many correct moves there are. Although this, you're right. Like if there's a blunder, if you're in danger of a blunder, then you could be able to communicate that. Yeah. So I wonder. I mean, yeah, get the code breakers on it. Let's see what comes from it. But what a shitty situation, right? Like chess is like chess is sort of historically considered kind of an honorable game, that to some extent like self-selects, who plays, and in a way it is probably elitist and classist and stuff, but I don't think so. I mean, do bank robbers feel guilty about spending the money that they heist from a bank? Do money heisters feel guilty about the money they heist from the money? I don't think it's, I think for honorable people, you're right? It is more about the prestige than the money, although let's be fair, Magnus Carlsen makes a shit ton of money. And a little added wrinkle is he does have like a company, and that company I think was just bought out by chess.com for, I want to say $20 million or something like that. Although I don't know 100%. Did anyone have Money Heist on Bingo? Still haven't gone beyond the first season of that. Probably never shall. What else do I got? Okay, so yeah. I've also been, I think I talked about this a little bit, but I've been playing Return to Monkey Island. And I'm at a point now where I'm trying to force, I'm finding that I need to kind of force myself to do it a little bit. I'm very much enjoying like some of the humor and enjoying the characters, But I don't think the puzzle design is very good. I think it's actually pretty bad. There are a lot of like, and I wonder because I chose the most difficult, what they call like the mad monkey or whatever. I forget, something like that, really. The difficult setting with more puzzles. And I wonder if those more puzzles are what are creating this experience for me that is like, oh, I just have to do this again. This seems like a time sink. This is not a clever puzzle. And then even like on a slightly higher level, like the way it orchestrates how you're doing the obstacles that you need to overcome. Like there's a part where you get onto a pirate ship and then you have to convince everyone to vote to go to Monkey Island, and you have to like bring people the thing that they want in order to vote for you. And it, like at that point I felt like, oh, this is a bunch of fetch quests, and there was nothing in that series of tasks that I needed to complete that was particularly interesting or memorable. So, well, no. I mean, if people are talking about stuff that you're not familiar with, why would that make you feel stupid? Ignorance is not stupidity, right? Are you gonna get thrown out of the stream? You wish. We can't afford to. We have to take everyone we can get at this point. No, I realize my interests are niche interests to some extent. Although video games are not niche by any stretch of the imagination anymore. But yeah, I'm more worried about, making people feel like they're unwelcome. I don't want that. But I gotta talk about the stuff that I can only talk about the stuff that interests me. I can't talk about things that don't interest me, or I will have nothing to say. I am reading a book right now that I'm not sure how it evaded my attention for as long as it has, or how this author sort of escaped my attention for so long. It's Robertson Davies is the author, the Canadian author, and I'm reading my first book of his, and I predict that I will read many more afterwards. It's called The Cunning Man. The Cunning Man. And I'm about halfway through it, and I really like the way this person writes, and I like his outlook on life. It's suitably grim. It's about a boy who wants to become a doctor, and some of the things that he is going through in his life's path to becoming a doctor. Without giving too much away. And it opened, it's weird, I assume it's getting back to this, but it opened with a murder mystery, and I guess this guy is kind of like, now in present day, he's sort of like the Dr. Watson, but the Sherlock Holmes Dr. Watson amalgamation. But then it, immediately goes back to this flashback of how he became who he became, and that's sort of where I am. But just really, I'm enthralled by the way the guy writes. So I'm hoping it's going to get back to the murder mystery, because that's what I thought it was. Oh, what's this? Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. That sounds like something I would like very much. I have like reverse dictionaries and a couple of books that are, dictionaries of particularly strange words, possibly no longer in use. Yeah, it's dark humor. Sure. It's a humorous. I mean, they're not jokes. It's not laugh out loud funny. It's more just sort of a darkly humorous take. So far. Right up my alley, right? Just like anal beads. Stacy. Oh, I would definitely don't jeopardize your work based on the stream. Oh, and Lexi got a new, Lexi. Wait. Oh. The seal pose. Yeah, so my take on Doki Doki was good, not great. I liked it. I liked some of the character development. I liked the twist. I liked the meta-ness of it. I did complete it afterwards off stream. There wasn't that much left to it. I guess the meta-ness of it didn't really take me that much by surprise, or right, yeah, better without being spoiled. Q, yeah, I think that's part of it. It was like I was prepared for something of that sort, and I didn't feel like it took. I felt like it just could have gone further, right? Like, I think at one point it directly influenced like your ability to select something by like not letting you pick Monica or anything but Monica at one point, which was neat. But that's the kind of thing that like Undertale was doing, all over the place. And Doki Doki, I think, just did it maybe one or two places. Hey, Voice Quills, how are you doing? Ooh, I want to see your PFP. Yep, love it. Love it. Yeah, you missed the anal bead discussion. Re-chess. Interesting, Nico. Yeah, I mean, I did not love Sayori as a character. But honestly, I was expecting what happened to her to happen much sooner. So when it did happen, I was like, yep, okay. Well, and then it just it went from there to the end game, like really quickly. And I guess I just felt like there was maybe some more room to play with stuff there. And also just like something more than just clicking through text. Like something, It's another thing that Undertale did really well. And I know I keep bringing up this game, but Hacker did it really well too. So, and I understand this is like one person who did this, and for people who are into that kind of game, right? This was something that would be like, okay, this is one of those kinds of games that I like, and now here's the path it's going down. Then all of a sudden, it takes a sharp right turn. And especially if it takes you by surprise, then you're like, wow, cool. But because I think the genre was just completely not my genre, I was I guess I was expecting a little more towards the end. But I did like it. And I do like Return to Monkey Island. I just think some of the puzzle design, really, that's where I'm not being let down by the writing. I'm not being let down by the voice acting. I'm not let down by the art style. A lot of people talk shit about the art style. I feel like I'm being a bit let down by the actual puzzle design. It's not an interesting puzzle to me when I have to read something about somebody on a statue in order to be able to answer a question about them. It's not an interesting puzzle design to me when I use a magnifying glass to look at something small, and then I see something else that's small, and now I have to go back and get another magnifying glass, and I have to stack the magnifying glasses. To me, that's not interesting puzzle design. Tying all the threads together into like one little area of being trapped on a ship that won't go where you want it to go until you give everybody what they need. That's not like a narratively interesting thing for me. And all those things can be overcome, and I'm still playing it. I'm still going to finish it. I still will say that I loved it. And maybe this is just age, right? And if this were the first Monkey Island game I had played, maybe I would not have any of these issues, right? But I am comparing it to a relatively high bar, and I do find that, like, a lot of times when people will talk shit about adventure games, they'll talk about how abstract the puzzle design is, and where it's like, this is not intuitive. This is more like, I have to think, what was the designer thinking? Right, and I have to combine a bunch of inventory items that don't really make any contextual sense in order to come up with the solution that, just like thinking about it from a rational, logical point of view, you would never come up with the solution. Typically, like when I read reviews that have critiques like that of puzzle games, like a lot of times my reaction will be, oh, that was my favorite puzzle. Right, you had to do this like weird abstract abstract thinking, right? Like to try and come up with like okay, in the real world, this would not work, but in Crazy Town, it might work if I took a parrot and then I hooked it up to a telephone, and then I had an answering machine that was attached to a potato for about, like all this kind of stuff that you might come up with to kind of create this Rube Goldberg kind of thing where it's like, I did it. And a really good example of this is the Babelfish in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the old Infocom game, which back in the day was considered sort of like here is the low or high watermark, depending on how charitable you were towards obscure solutions in text adventure games. Either the high or the low watermark was, how do I get this Babelfish out of this vending machine? Forgive me, it's been like 35 years since I've played this game, so I don't really 100% recall, but it was basically like every time you thought you had the solution, something else went wrong. Like you would finally be able to get the money to put in the vending machine, but then the button to get the Babelfish wouldn't work. And then you would finally be able to find something that you would be able to replace the button with to select the Babelfish, put the money in, you press the button, the Babelfish wouldn't fall out, right? It would get to the edge. And then you'd do all this again, and Babelfish would be at the edge, and you'd be able to do something to get it to fall, but then it would come out and it would shoot out and go under like a hole in the wainscoting or something. And it was just this really, really long chain of infuriating events. Like literally, like every time it was toying with you. And this was Douglas Adams saying, "I'm gonna fuck with you right now and make you think that you're gonna get this babelfish. And every time you think you're gonna get it, I'm gonna like pull it away at the last second until you finally sort of strung together this really long, nonsensical logic chain of how to get this babelfish into your ear, and then back to the I am looking forward to Scorn, although I'm a little concerned that it's going to be just like Myst, but with Giger aesthetics. And I'm a little bit like when I watch the trailers for it, people are like, but this game is not like any other game. Like, there's no instructions telling you what to do. You just need to figure it out from the environment. Yeah, dude, that's Myst. That's like one of the most popular games ever. Like, this is not like a really new concept. It's just now it's, disgusting. You have to use biological parts put into, faux vaginal canals, and everything is phallic and everything is bloody and gooey and has a specular shininess to it. But I'm still going to play it. It's nothing like phallic specular gooiness. Which was supposing because I came from the cranial nerve exam video, lol. You're nosy, which was surprising, maybe? Is that what you meant? Oh, yes, surprising, yeah. Yeah, we're all over the place here. Who would you kiss and who would you marry? What are we talking about? Doki Doki? I mean, this seems like a sanitized version of another game. Oh, I am looking forward to this. I am indeed. Oh my God, Pivy, it's 4:30 a.m. Artemis, yeah, that's part of the reason, definitely. I'm going to call you on this, Voice Quills. I am of the belief that kissing is more intimate than fucking. That might be a unique. I don't think that's so unique. I mean, it's well known that, like, some escorts will be like, no kissing, right? I know. I personally find it more, but not more explicit, right? What is this, Nico? You would murder Yuri? I mean, really? I like let the Sayori situation, play out. I'm not gonna get involved with the Sayori situation. I mean, the answer is clearly marry Yuri, isn't it? Kissing does kind of fuck with your lips. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Sometimes it can mess with your lips, especially if you're kissing someone who has a mustache. It can really fuck up your lips. Absolutely, Q. I mean, I don't know that we can say this. Look, she's the pick of a bad lot. Let's say. I find the style grating of like super hyper super excited people talking a lot. Let me just, I guess, like say it that way, right? So if there's someone who is a little less bubbly, I don't know what the way to how the way to phrase that is really without being offensive. I can do it in a song. Talk less, smile more. Don't let them know who you're against or who you're for. Although the smile more I don't get, and I realize I'm singing that to the tune of a Travis song. But it fits. I also really liked going back and watching Lin-Manuel Miranda do the first song from Alexander Hamilton at the 2009 White House Poetry Jam, where he was supposed to be doing something from In the Heights, and he went sort of off script and was like, I'm working on a hip-hop album based on the life of somebody, he thinks embodies the spirit of hip-hop, founding father Alexander Hamilton. Everybody laughs. I'm pretty sure that many people in that audience were like, okay, well, this is funny, but it's certainly never going to get off the ground. And if it ever gets off the ground, certainly will never be successful. And if it's ever successful, certainly won't be a cultural phenomenon. Yes, Olivia, you got it. Somewhere only we know. I mean, this is a imaginary situation, correct? Right. It's very uncomfortable. Yeah, I have listened to Porcupine Tree. I am a fan. Artemis, I'm not really going to discuss that. But good night, Quills. Yeah, Good Night Moon's a piece of shit. I would never watch a Good Night Moon video. Fully comfortable going on record with Good Night Moon is a bad person. And with that, Thank you all for hanging out. I'm going to call it a night, and we'll be back soon. Thank you for helping to cheer me up, which didn't really cheer me up. I am not cheered up. I am uncheered. Behind the Moons is awesome. Yes. Okay, so yeah, I'll talk to y'all later. And yeah, I was a little cheered up, I suppose. Almost. But thank you for coming out. Thank you for putting up with me. Oops. Kind of loud. And yeah, see you all again soon. Hope. Take care. Bye.